It's been a while. All right, it's time for another Outside Notes. This time, it's for World Championship 27. More specifically, these are the 27 things that you need to know about Limited going into the World Championship. And the first thing you need to know is what format they are, and they are Innistrad Midnight Hunt. The players are going to open up 3 booster packs total. They're going to select cards from each of them, pass them to their left, their right, back to their left. They'll end up with a total of 40 card decks, and they're going to duke it out in 3 rounds to kick off the day. Which brings us to the next one, which is that the 3 rounds represents 30% of the 10 total rounds. So 7 rounds is standard, 3 rounds of draft. That means any player who emerges from their pod with that coveted 3-0 record is going to be in great shape to make a push for top 4. Blue-black is the place to be. That is the single best archetype, and the players will definitely be trying for it. The Esper color trio seems to be the most desirable, with blue-black, blue-white, and black-white all performing well. Every set has one. There's always a mythic uncommon, and the mythic uncommon for this set is Scob Wrangler. It turns out that there's so many random creatures lying around the board, mainly the decayed zombies, that this card becomes a tapper that you don't have to spend mana for. If somebody opens this, don't be surprised if they first pick it over like a mythic rare or something. And that brings us to that's right, mythic common for this set. There actually is one. It doesn't always happen, but Organ Hoarder has been incredible. It does everything that you want. It's better than all the commons. It's better than most of the uncommons, rares, and mythic rares. It fuels the graveyard. It's card advantage built in. It's even a relevant creature type with zombie, and it is awesome. People are going to take them early and often. Now, when it comes to the best colors in the set, there is some discussion on whether it's blue or black. There is not discussion on whether those are the 2 best colors, though. They are definitely the 2 best colors. The question is, which one do you have higher than the other? Now, when it comes to the colors at the bottom of the barrel, it's usually red and green, with green being the worst, generally speaking. The highest rated green common is lower rated than the 7th best blue common. So people are going to try to avoid green if they can. Now, if you are going to draft green, you should concentrate on big mana and on your graveyard. So it probably wouldn't surprise you that Eccentric Farmer and Shadow Beast Sighting are the top 2 commons in green. There's a couple of good flashback spells in green, Shadow Beast Sighting at common, and Rise of the Ants at uncommon, that can really be a nice engine to get ahead on the ground and to kind of seal up the game. Okay, so let's talk players here. Who are the limited end bosses in this field? I narrowed it down to 4 of them. The first one is Jean-Emmanuel Duprat. Now, Jean-Emmanuel has a very impressive 69% win rate on Arena, also played the most games out of anybody in the field, but doesn't have any GP top 8s in Limited. So kind of interesting, not as much history, but definitely a high performer and somebody to look out for. Then we've got, that's right, Paulo Vitor Damarosa. Turns out the great players are great at everything. 67.2% win percentage with 11 GP top 8s to his name. He's going to be an end boss, whether it's Limited or any other format. Next, we've got Gabriel Nassif and Yellow Hat, 70.5 win percentage on Arena. That's the highest out of any player here. And he's got 5 GP top 8s, not known to be a Limited player, but it turns out if you're a great player, it translates pretty nicely to Limited as well. And our last, and maybe the Limited end boss, is Seth Manfield. He's got the 2nd highest win rate at 69.6% with 7 GP top 8s. And if I had to pick one player to be the best Limited player of the bunch, it would be Seth. So that might make you think, well, who's the underdog in the format then? Who has the least experience? And there's a couple of players that stand out. One of them is Stanislav Sivka. Sivka only has 125 draft games played on Arena. Now that's just on Arena, with the highest level being bronze. So he's barely played as far as that goes. But come on, let's be real. He's going to be testing for this, right? So he's an incredible player. So he's going to pick it up, but definitely least experienced of the bunch as far as Arena goes. And then we have Noriyuki Mori, the relative newcomer to the highest level here. And while he has played 3,000 games of Limited on Arena, he doesn't have any experience at the limited tabletop events, and also has the lowest win percentage in limited of the players in the field. Still, that's 58%. It's a very respectable number. And again, these players are going to be practicing hard, so definitely don't count them out. Now, going back to the cards, our 11th thing that you need to know is, are there sweepers in the format? They have such a huge game swinging effect that it's really important to know whether they're in the format or not. And there are, in fact, 3 for this set. There's the Meat Hook Massacre, Burn Down the House, and Vanquish the Horde. They're all strong performers. They're all likely to be high picks, and they're cards that other players are going to be looking out for when possible. Sweepers are like the biggest effect, but number 12 is actually smaller, but definitely matters, which is messing around with your opponent's graveyard matters. Cards like really Diregraph Horde, which is just insane all around, but also cards like Soul Guide Gryff, Rotten Reunion, even Jack-o'-lantern, they can give a bigger advantage than you think. There's not only flashback cards, but there's also disturb cards in this format, and the ability to nab those really is like taking cards out of your opponent's hand. Black has 3 good removal spells. It's one of the big draws to the color. Olivia's Midnight Ambush is kind of the obvious good card, good removal spell for black, but both Defenestrate and Eaten Alive have overperformed. Defenestrate just kills a lot of the things that you really care about, and Eaten Alive's alternative cost of sacking a creature comes up all the time, mainly because of decay zombies making it so easy to do so. If you like alternate win conditions, there's a little bit here for you. Triskaidekaphile has a fairly ambitious one where if you can get 13 cards in your hand, you can win the game. I'm here for it. If somebody does it, I will be cheering louder than anybody, but let's just say don't expect to see it necessarily. If one of our players does end up in white-black, it's primarily a sacrifice deck. It has a strong sacrifice theme to it. And this is fed simply by the fact that decay zombies are around and they're kind of born to be sacrificed. Look, they can only attack once. They can't block. It's much better to throw them as a sacrifice to a card that gives you a big advantage. And that's what white-black's going to do. So if you see one of our players go down that route, they're going to be prioritizing cards that sacrifice other creatures. The format is more pauper than Prince. And what that means is that the average deck is dictated more by commons and uncommons than it is by getting some specific broken rare, mythic rare, or whatever. It means that the archetypes come together better, and when you're watching the draft, you'll have a better idea for how the deck's going to perform based on every pick rather than just one specific card. Blue-white is the other of that trio from the 2 best colors, and it has a really good matchup against blue-black. So in a pod like this, where there might be 2 players who are blue-black, if you can be the blue-white player, you might just be in the best seat of them all. Another thing that you'll notice is that 1 mana cost creatures matter. Specifically, Ecstatic Awakener has been awesome. Lunarch Veteran, also awesome. Gavony Trapper sees extensive play. There was a time when we ignored 1-drops for the most part. That is no longer the case. These cards matter, and the players are going to be taking them. Now, when it comes to the red-green Werewolves deck, unfortunately, it's the worst performing archetype, and my gut instinct is that it would have to be wide open before a player would willingly draft it. Defenestrate kills any werewolf, whichever side it's on. Olivia's Midnight Ambush kills any werewolf if it's nighttime, which is the side when they're actually pumped up and doing really cool stuff. And the even innocuous Silverbolt kills any werewolf literally. And that's a type of card that you can pick up pretty late and put in your deck. So it's rough out here for a wolf. Decayed zombies have a lot of use in this format. The best one that I mentioned, of course, is the sacrifice. But there's also subsets of cards that care about just having critical mass of creatures like Scob Wrangler, Siege Zombie, and Larder Zombie. They can repeatedly make use of piles of rotting zombies. If you're a fan of Buildarounds, cards like Geist Flame Reservoir or even Ghoulish Procession can have some cool applications, but they're relatively narrow, and you should expect the players to stick to more bread and butter strategies unless they get one of these very specific cards. When it comes to Coven, it's a little bit harder to set up than we initially thought, especially because the removal's so good in the format that they can use it to take out the one creature that's getting you to Coven. Payoffs are really good. Dawnheart Mentor in the late game completely takes over, and even uncommons like Dualcraft Trainer can really do work if you can get Coven and keep it. Now, you may look at some of the removal spells, specifically the pacifism effects, cards like Candle Trap and Locked in the Cemetery, and think, hey, that's a good removal spell. You should play that. But they've actually proven pretty weak in this format, mainly because people play sacrifice cards so liberally that they often just end up having their creature sacrificed to something like that. But there's even bounce spells and stuff. So don't be surprised if the players deprioritize these types of removal. This format is very deep, it's complex, and it deals with a lot of zones, graveyard, hand, board, library, exile, and the gameplay can be really tricky with day-night happening, flashbacks always in somebody's graveyard. So really look forward to the gameplay. It's complex and it rewards good play, and that's pretty much all we're going to be seeing at the World Championship. There is a cycle of mythics called the Adversaries. They're very powerful. Anybody who gets one is going to be happy if they're in their colors, and they're going to be on the short list of cards that people want to open up. But when it comes to the one card to open, the dream, the one-time please of the set, it is the Meathook Massacre. It's in one of the strongest colors. It has the ability to bring you back from when you were behind or even just end the game on the spot. It even sticks around after you stabilize to help you win the game later. You can even do something stupid like pick it back up with a Geist Wave. Yeah, this is where you want to use your one time. Any player opening this card is going to be thrilled and in the driver's seat for a strong win. And of course, the last and maybe most important thing that you need to know about the World Championship is that it is on twitch.tv/magic at 9 a.m. on October the 8th. Do not be late. Do not miss it. We're kicking things off with drafts. So if you're a limited fan, make sure you're there on time. I'm going to be there doing coverage with the rest of our awesome coverage team, and I can't wait to see you there.